The sky over the colony was always quiet at night. The twin moons hung above like two pale eyes watching everything below. The wind was soft, brushing over broken buildings and empty roads. Most families had gone inside. But one figure sat alone, as she did every night. Her name was Maela. She sat on a stone bench near the old water fountain that no longer worked. Her eyes looked toward the stars, but her thoughts were far away. She didn't speak. She didn't move. But every night she wept. No one dared to go near her anymore. Her daughter, Sira, stood behind a broken wall nearby, watching silently. She had watched her mother cry like this for many months. The people of the colony whispered about it. They called Maela the broken one. Some said she had gone mad. Others believed she remembered too much of the war. But Sira knew her mother was not mad. She was hurting. Deep inside. Sira was only 12, but she was smart. She understood that her mother carried pain no one else could see. Their home was quiet, small, and hidden away at the edge of the colony. They didn't speak much at home, either. Maela spent her days staring at the wall. At night, she walked outside, and she cried. One morning, while walking toward the food center, Sira saw something unusual. A tall human man stood beside one of the old machines. He was trying to fix something with tools that looked too small for his large hands. His name tag said Leo. He looked kind, even though his face was tired. Sira didn't mean to stare, but the man looked at her and smiled. Need something? He asked gently. Sira shook her head but stepped forward. You're new here. I am, Leo replied. Just arrived 3 days ago. I'm here to help fix power systems. Sira tilted her head. Why would a human help our colony? Leo looked thoughtful. Because your people helped mine once, long ago. Now it's our turn. Sira nodded. She didn't know what made her say it, but her next words came quickly. My mother cries every night. Leo blinked. I'm sorry to hear that. She doesn't talk to anyone. Everyone says she's broken. But I don't think she is. I think she needs someone to listen. There was silence between them for a moment. Then Leo crouched down to her level. What's your name? Sira. Well, Sira, if you think I can help, I'll listen. Her eyes widened. No one had ever said that before. She didn't smile, but her heart felt warm. That night, Sira waited until her mother left the house. Then she walked across the quiet colony and found Leo near the main power grid. She's outside again, Sira said. Leo grabbed a small lamp and followed her. When they reached the fountain, Maela was already seated. Her long hair flowed over her shoulders and her back was turned. She didn't notice Leo at first. He stood quietly a few steps away and didn't say anything. He just listened. Maela's breathing was soft, and soon it broke. A tear fell, then another. She whispered words in her own language. Leo didn't understand them, but pain doesn't need translation. He could feel it in the air. Heavy. Real. Sira sat down a little closer. Leo remained standing behind them. Maela finally noticed them. Her head turned slightly. Her eyes narrowed. Sira spoke softly. He just wants to help. Maela looked at Leo, then back at the stars. She said nothing, and Leo didn't push. The next night he came again, and the next. Each time, he stood quietly, listening. Maela never asked for him, but she didn't tell him to leave either. On the 4th night, she finally spoke. Why do you stand there? She asked without looking. Because your daughter asked me to. I didn't ask for your ears. No, Leo said calmly. But she believes you need them. Maela's lips trembled. Her voice dropped low. What good is talking? Words don't bring the dead back. No, Leo agreed. But sometimes, sharing the pain makes the burden lighter. Maela didn't reply, but that night she cried more softly. Back at home, Sira quietly cleaned the small table. There was little food. The water lines barely worked. But something inside her had changed. She felt not alone. She looked at her mother the next morning. Maela sat quietly, her hands folded. "Did you sleep?" Sira asked. Myla nodded once. It was the first time in months. A week passed. Leo now sat on the bench across from Myla. He brought warm tea from the human base. She never drank it, but she didn't reject it either. Some of the other aliens in the colony began to notice. A few watched from windows. One even whispered, "Why does she talk to him?" Sira didn't care. She only cared that her mother was beginning to change. One night, Myla said something new. There was a village, she whispered, in the North Valley. It burned in silence. I couldn't save them. I couldn't even scream. Leo's face grew serious. He didn't ask questions. He simply nodded. "I've seen villages like that," he said quietly. "I couldn't save them either." That night, Myla didn't cry. Sira sat alone on her bed, listening to the quiet outside. Her mother was with Leo again, and for the first time in her young life, she felt something strange. Hope. Not just for her mother, but for herself. The stars outside the window looked a little brighter, and for Myla, the nights no longer belonged to sorrow alone. The wind was cold again that evening, but Leo came anyway. He wore his thick brown jacket and carried a small thermos of warm liquid, human tea mixed with something sweet. He didn't expect Myla to drink it. He brought it just to show that he cared. Myla was already sitting at her usual spot near the broken fountain. Her back was straight, her eyes fixed on the stars. Sira stood a few steps away, watching them both. She had begun to feel safer at night now, knowing her mother was no longer crying alone. Leo stepped forward and nodded politely. "Evening," he said softly. Myla didn't answer. Sira smiled a little and sat next to her mother. Leo took his usual place across from them. He didn't speak much. That was something he had learned quickly. Myla didn't need noise. She needed silence that made space for her thoughts. After a few minutes, Myla finally looked at him. "You're very patient for a human," she said. Leo raised his eyebrows. "I've had to learn." "Why?" Leo looked up at the stars, then down at the old stone between them. "Because I once lost someone and no one wanted to hear about it." That silence hurt more than the loss. Myla tilted her head slightly. "What happened?" Leo paused. "War. A bad mission. My brother was there, we didn't make it back." There was a stillness after his words. Myla nodded slowly. "You carry your pain well." "Maybe," Leo said, "but I still feel it." Sira glanced between them. It was the first time she had seen her mother look at someone without sadness in her eyes. Later that week, word began to spread around the colony. Some of the neighbors whispered, "That human is wasting his time." Others were more cruel. "She'll never be normal again. What's he trying to fix?" But Sira ignored them. She walked with her head high now, holding a small basket as she helped Leo gather parts for the broken lights near their sector. Leo smiled at her. "You're brave." Sira looked up at him. "You think so?" "Yes. You believe in your mother when others don't. That's bravery." Sira smiled shyly and looked away. That night, something different happened. When Leo arrived at the fountain, Myla was already standing, not sitting. "I want to walk," she said suddenly. Leo was surprised but said nothing. He simply followed her as she walked slowly along the edge of the colony, her daughter walking beside them. They didn't speak. The stars above were bright and the silence was peaceful. Myla finally said, "I remember when I first saw a human. He was wounded, bleeding. He asked for help." Leo looked at her carefully. "Did you help him?" "No," she said softly. "I ran away. I was scared." Leo nodded without judgment. "That's okay. Many would have done the same." Myla stopped walking. "He died. I found out later. His body was taken by the wind." Her voice shook. "I still hear him calling out. every night. Leo didn't speak. He placed a gentle hand over his heart and looked at her. "I'm not that man," he said, "but I'm here now, and I'm listening." The next evening, Mila sat beside the broken fountain again, but this time, she was the one who started the conversation. "I was a teacher before the war," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Sierra's eyes lit up. "You never told me that." "There was no point," Maela replied. "I didn't think I would ever teach again." Leo leaned forward. "What did you teach?" "Stories, songs, old tales of our ancestors." "Will you tell one?" Leo asked gently. Maela thought for a moment, then without warning she began to hum. The sound was slow and beautiful, like a memory floating in the air. Her voice was soft but steady. Even the night wind seemed to pause and listen. Sierra closed her eyes and leaned against her mother. Leo said nothing, but his heart was full. Few days later, the human commander at the outpost asked Leo why he spent so many evenings in the lower colony. "There's nothing down there but ghosts," the commander said. Leo replied calmly, "That's where the living need us most." The commander shrugged. "Just don't lose yourself." "I think I'm finding something, not losing it." Back in the colony, something unexpected happened. A few other alien women who had avoided Maela for months began to watch from a distance. One of them even left a small gift, dried fruit and cloth, at their doorstep. Maela noticed. She didn't say anything, but she picked up the gift and placed it carefully on the shelf. It was a small step, but it mattered. That night, Leo brought an old datapad. It was broken, but he had fixed it. "I found this in storage," he told Maela. "It has old Earth music. Would you like to hear?" She nodded. He played a simple tune. It was soft and full of feeling, no words, just melody. Maela listened with closed eyes. Then she whispered, "Your world also carries sadness in its songs." "We do," Leo replied, "but also hope." Maela opened her eyes. "Hope," she repeated, like it was a word she hadn't said in years. "Yes," Leo said. "Hope is what grows after the tears." That night, when Leo left, Sierra ran after him. "Thank you," she said quickly. Leo turned to her. "For what?" "For giving my mother someone to talk to." Leo crouched and looked her in the eyes. "She's the one doing the hard part," he said. "I'm just doing what someone should have done a long time ago." As Sierra walked back, home, she looked up at the sky. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter tonight. Inside, her mother was already preparing warm water. She was humming again, and for the first time in a long while, Sierra realized that her mother's voice wasn't broken. It had just been waiting for someone who cared. The days were getting longer, and so was Maela's silence. Only now it felt different. Not heavy or hopeless, but thoughtful. She was no longer avoiding the world. She was watching it, as if preparing to return to it slowly. Sierra noticed the change before anyone else. Her mother now brushed her hair in the morning. She cleaned the small table without being asked. She even added tiny blue flowers to the windowsill, grown from seeds she had hidden since the war. Leo visited every evening, not just to sit, but to help. He repaired a broken lamp outside their home, fixed a heater unit, and even taught Sierra how to use a small toolkit. The three of them had begun sharing quiet meals together, though often without many words. But tonight was different. As they sat near the old fountain once again, the stars glowing quietly above them, Maela stared at Leo with a serious look. "There's something I've never said aloud," she began. Leo and Sierra both looked at her, waiting. "It's about why I cry," Maela whispered. "Why I couldn't speak before. It's not just about the war. It's about a choice I made." Leo stayed, still. He didn't rush her. Maela took a deep breath. "During the second wave of attacks we were running, Sierra was just a baby then. I was hiding in an old temple on the edge of the forest." Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. While hiding there, I found someone else. An injured human. Soldier. He had been left behind. He was badly hurt but alive. He begged me to help. Sira's eyes widened. She had never heard this story. I was terrified. Maela continued. We had all been told that humans were dangerous. I didn't know who to trust. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw pain and fear, just like mine. She looked at Leo now. But then I heard voices outside, soldiers, enemy patrols. If they found me, they would take Sira, or kill her, or worse. I had only seconds to decide. She paused. Her voice cracked. I shut the door. I hid deeper inside. I left him. Silence fell over the fountain. Leo didn't move. His eyes were soft, but he said nothing. I thought maybe someone else would come, Maela said, but I heard nothing. Only the wind. Later I found his blood-soaked cloth. He was gone. Tears filled her eyes. That's what I see every night when I look at the stars. His face, his eyes, and the choice I made. Sira gently held her mother's hand. Leo took a deep breath and finally spoke. You saved your child. You chose to protect her. Maela shook her head. But I didn't try to save him. You were scared. You had a child in your arms. That's not weakness. Maela, that's survival. She looked down. Leo leaned forward. I've seen soldiers make worse choices. Cold ones. You were afraid, but you still remember him. You didn't forget. That means something. Sira squeezed her mother's hand. You saved me. I'm here because of you. Maela slowly nodded. Her tears didn't fall this time. They stayed in her eyes, but they didn't break free. The next morning, Maela woke early. She stood outside the house looking at the rising sun. It was the first time she had done that in years. Leo arrived later carrying a small box. What's that? Sira asked curiously. Leo smiled. A piece of history. I pulled it from an old military record. He opened the box and pulled out a small metal disc. It was old, dusty, a little bent. This belonged to a soldier who served in the second wave. It was found near the northern forests. His name was never confirmed, but the location matches what you said, Maela. Maela touched the disc carefully. Her hands trembled again. Leo continued. He didn't die right away. There are signs someone tried to bandage him. He wrote something on the wall of the temple before he passed. What did he write? Maela asked, her voice thin. Leo handed her a small data sheet. It read, Tell my family I saw kindness in the end. Maela stared at the message. He was talking about you, Leo said gently. Even if you didn't stay, you tried. That's the part he remembered. For a long time, Maela didn't speak. But when she finally looked up, her eyes were clearer than they had been in years. Thank you, she whispered. That evening, something new happened in the colony. Maela, for the first time, asked to speak at the community center. It was a small hall where gatherings were sometimes held. A few people came unsure of what to expect. Some sat out of curiosity, others with quiet doubt. Leo stood in the back. Sira stood proudly by her mother's side. Maela took a step forward and faced the small crowd. I was once afraid of speaking, she began, because my voice carried memories that hurt too much. But someone reminded me that silence can be heavier than truth. She shared her story, not just about the war, but about the human soldier, the choice she made, and the pain that followed. She didn't hide her tears. She let them fall gently, honestly. But today, she said, I am learning that healing does not come from forgetting. It comes from remembering, and still choosing to hope. When she finished, there was silence in the room, then a soft clap, then more, until the whole room was filled with quiet applause. Leo smiled, and Maela bowed her head, not in shame, but in peace. That night, Sira sat at the window watching the stars. Leo sat nearby, sipping tea. She's changing, Sira said softly. Leo nodded. She's returning. Do you think she'll stop crying at night? Leo looked at the sky. Maybe. Or maybe she'll still cry, but the tears will feel different now. Sira smiled. Inside the house, Maela sat by the table, writing in an old book, a journal. Her hand moved slowly, but her words were steady. For the first time in many years, she was writing her own story. Not as a victim, but as someone who chose to keep living. Since the night Maela spoke to the colony, the air around her home had changed. It was warmer, lighter. People began to pass by and nod politely. Some even stopped to offer small gifts, fruits, fabric, or old books. A few of the alien children came near Sira when she was outside, curious and quiet but not unfriendly. Maela didn't cry at the fountain anymore. She still visited the spot each evening, but now she brought her journal and sat in silence, writing under the stars. Sometimes Leo joined her. Other times, she sat with her daughter, speaking softly about dreams and old stories. One afternoon, as Sira helped Leo repair a broken water pipe near the colony's edge, she asked him, "Do you think my mother will ever teach again?" Leo paused and looked at her. "Yes," he said. "She already has. She taught me something." Sira tilted her head. "What?" Leo smiled. "That listening can be more powerful than speaking, and that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means growing from pain." That evening, Maela was waiting for Leo at the fountain. "I want to help again," she said. Leo sat beside her. "Help how?" "Others in this colony. They carry pain too, not just me. Some lost families, some lost homes, and many have no voice left. I want to help them speak." Leo nodded with deep respect. "You'd be good at that." Maela took out her journal and showed him the first page. It had a drawing of the fountain, the stars above, and 3 small figures, Maela, Sira, and Leo. "This is where it began," she whispered. Soon, Maela began visiting the colony center every morning. She didn't hold official meetings. Instead, she sat near the main square with a small mat and extra space beside her. People could come, sit, and speak, if they wanted. At first, only one old woman sat beside her. She spoke about losing her son in a fire. Then another came, a young man who hadn't spoken since the war. Slowly, word spread. Maela's spot became a place of quiet healing. Sira often helped by bringing water or drawing in her sketchpad while listening. Leo repaired benches nearby and made sure the lights stayed on late into the evening. One day, a colony leader approached Maela. He was an elder with silver marks on his forehead and a firm voice. "You have changed, Maela," he said. Maela stood, quietly. "I'm still myself, I just stopped hiding." The elder nodded. "Would you speak at the Unity gathering next week? Humans and our people will attend together. It's time we share our stories." Maela hesitated, then said, "Yes." The Unity gathering was held under the sky near the old landing platform. A large open area was cleaned and decorated with banners, half in human writing, half in alien script. Lights glowed softly above, and chairs were placed in neat circles. Maela wore a simple gray dress with small blue beads Sira had sewn by hand. Leo wore his standard uniform but polished his boots. Sira looked proud in her mother's old teaching robe, now cleaned and resized for her. People gathered, humans, aliens, children, elders. The mood was quiet but respectful. When Maela stood to speak, the entire area fell silent. She looked around slowly before speaking. "I am not a soldier," she began. "I am not a leader. I am a mother, a survivor. And once I was lost in my own silence." She spoke of the war, the fear, and the weight of guilt. She didn't hide her tears, but her voice was strong. "I thought pain made me weak, but I've learned that pain shared becomes strength." She ended with a small smile. "If we listen to each other, not just speak, we can build something better than before." The crowd clapped, some softly, others with hands over their hearts. Leo stood quietly, eyes full of quiet pride. Sira wiped a tear from her cheek. After the gathering, a group of human engineers approached Leo. "Was that the same woman you told us about?" one of them asked. Leo nodded. She's stronger than any soldier I've ever met. Later that night, Maela stood with Sira outside their home. You did something amazing, Sira said, hugging her mother. Maela kissed her daughter's forehead. You brought Leo to me. Without you, I wouldn't have spoken again. Sira smiled. You just needed someone to listen. And I had you, Maela whispered. Leo joined them with 3 cups of warm tea. They sat together near the fountain, just like the first nights, but everything had changed. Sira looked up. Do you think we'll ever go back to our home planet? Maela thought for a moment. Maybe not the place, but we can rebuild the feeling of home right here. Leo added. Home is where people care for each other. It's not always a place. Sometimes it's a bond. They sat in peaceful silence, stars above shining like soft lanterns. Days passed and Maela's journal grew thicker with stories. Sira started a small drawing book with sketches of the colony, people, and moments she didn't want to forget. Leo helped install solar panels on the rooftops and built a small library corner with old Earth books and alien scrolls. The colony was still scarred, still healing, but it was alive. And Maela was part of it again. One night she sat at her table and wrote the words, Pain brought silence, listening brought light, and now I walk forward. The next morning, Maela placed the finished journal in the colony library. On the front, she had written one word in both human and alien script, hope. The sky over the colony had changed, not in color or light, but in feeling. It no longer seemed heavy. The stars no longer looked down on pain and silence. They now watched over healing, growth, and new beginnings. Maela no longer walked to the fountain with sorrow in her steps. She walked with purpose now. Each night she still sat beneath the stars, but not to cry. She wrote. She smiled. She talked to others who came by, seeking comfort. And most of all, she lived. The colony, once filled with quiet sadness, now moved with life. Children played near the edges. Grown-ups worked together. Aliens and humans side by side. A garden was being planted where old scrap once lay. And at the heart of it all, Maela had become something new, a voice for those who had once gone unheard. That evening, Leo arrived with something wrapped in cloth. He found Maela outside her home, placing small lamps along the path. What's that? She asked with a curious look. Leo sat beside her and slowly unwrapped the gift. It was a small, smooth stone with a glowing blue line across its center. It was a memory stone, an ancient object from Maela's own people. But this one had been redesigned. Leo had worked with both human engineers and alien artists to create something unique. The stone could now hold spoken words, stories, songs. Anything spoken into it would be saved and shared. I thought, Leo said, handing it to her. Maybe your voice should be remembered. Maela touched the stone gently. Thank you. I never imagined I'd want to be heard again. You helped others speak, Leo said. Now it's your turn to be remembered. That night, Maela sat beside the fountain again, her daughter Sira on one side, Leo on the other. The stars sparkled above, calm and steady. Sira leaned against her mother's shoulder. You know, she said, I can't remember the last time you cried here. Maela blinked. She hadn't thought about it. She looked up at the sky, then down at the stone in her hand. You're right, she said. Tonight is different. Leo nodded slowly. Maybe tonight is the night everything comes full circle. They sat quietly for a while, listening to the wind. Then Maela placed the memory stone in front of her and pressed a small silver button on its edge. She looked at it and spoke gently. This is my voice, she began. I am Maela, daughter of the stars, mother of Sira. I once wept beneath these moons because I thought my story was over. But I was wrong. It was only waiting for someone to listen. Her voice stayed calm. To the one who listened, thank you. To the one who believed in me, thank you. To the one who never gave up on me, Thank you. She looked at Sira and smiled. You saved me. Sira held her tightly. No, Mama. You saved yourself. I just opened the door. The next day was calm and bright. The wind was soft, and the sky was clear. Maela visited the colony center and placed the memory stone in the middle of the new library wall. It rested beside scrolls, books, and even old photographs from Earth. The colony elder stood nearby. You've done something rare, Maela, he said. I just spoke, she replied. You listened too, the elder said. That is a rare strength. Sira continued drawing every day. Her newest sketch showed the fountain surrounded by lights and people sitting together. In the center was her mother, smiling, peaceful and strong. She showed it to Leo one evening. She's my hero, Sira said softly. Leo nodded. Mine too. That night, Leo walked with Maela through the garden paths, where flowers had started to bloom. The moonlight made the petals shine gently and the air smelled of fresh earth. They didn't say much. Sometimes silence between friends says more than words. Maela finally looked at him. When you first came here, did you expect to stay this long? Leo smiled. No, I thought I'd fix a few power lines and leave. But you stayed. I met you. Maela gave a soft laugh. And I met someone who didn't run when I was silent. I wasn't in a hurry, Leo replied. Back at home, Sira was already asleep. She had fallen asleep with her notebook open on her chest, a drawing of 3 people under the stars, the same 3 who had changed each other's lives forever. Maela stood by the window and looked out one last time. No tears came, only a deep, quiet peace. She turned off the lights and whispered, Good night. The final page in her journal read, Once I cried alone beneath the stars. Now I sit with 2 hearts beside me. One called daughter, one called friend, and I do not weep anymore.